Hey, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom. This is Naaman with the DC camp. First and foremost, Kahalo Yahweh, Bahashimi Awashai, Bahashimi Kakwadash, double honors once again. Go out to the apostles, bishops, and elders, the great millstone, who continue to push this truth through the Holy Spirit. Wow, salutations to the fellow Akim out there on the highways and byways, pushing this truth with all honesty and sincerity in an attempt to wake up the remaining hopeful elect, if that be the case. All right. Wow. These dirty, evil, psychotic pieces of shit. Belgium. Do I have to go into the history of Belgium when it comes to the Congo? King Leopold II, that murderous bastards, estimates of upwards of 10 million Congolese that he killed for what? Rubber and other things. Images of children with their at least one arm from the forearm up cut off. Other atrocities because they didn't meet their quotas. Again, we're talking about children here, so how much more? What I'm about to show you today, after they won their independence under Patrice Lumumba, and you might not be surprised who gave the order for his assassination, who was complicit in it. Well, you shouldn't be. For those of you that, well, let's just get into the story. It says, Belgium returns gold tooth of Congo's hero who was assassinated and dissolved in acid. Brussels. Belgian authorities on Monday, yesterday, returned a gold-capped tooth belonging to the slain Congolese independence hero Patrice Lumumba, as the former colonial power continues to confront its bloody past and looks toward reconciliation. And you, Jakes, are so quick to forgive this bastard when he does not reciprocate. Why is that? It's because over these centuries of being oppressed, you have, and this is what they call transgenerational. That's why I like to use the term I'm about to give you rather than Stockholm Syndrome, because Stockholm Syndrome does not go deep enough. All right. In fact, let me look this up right now. This is why I had him up here, but let's go back. Let's see. We'll come back to him. Something called, whoops. There we go. It's called colonial mentality or colonial mindset. It says it's deeply embedded and persists today. This is from The Guardian. This is from last year. But let's go to the Wikipedia. A colonial mentality it's the same thing. It's just sometimes it's just worded differently. And this is important, is the internalized attitude of ethnic or cultural inferiority. Our people as a whole have a huge inferiority complex. It says felt by people as a result of colonialization, i.e. them being colonized by another group. It corresponds with the belief that the cultural values of the colonizer are inherently superior to one's own. That's why some of our people are so quick to accept these edicts, however wicked they are, that come down from this devil, such as, well, we're in Pride Month. All the things associated with shit like that, when you fall under the umbrella of sexual deviancy. All right? Marching up and down the streets with these pieces of shit. Not realizing that you're sealing your own fate because they're trying to replace you, as other groups have springboarded off of us in the past. It's no different with this. because the hatred for our people runs so deep. You got people that want to marry cows and whatever else, and they'll have more rights than us. Yes, that's what's happening. It says the term has been used by post-colonial scholars to discuss the transgenerational, that's the operative word here, transgenerational, from generation to generation to generation, because at the end of the day, this is all spiritual. All right. It says transgenerational effects of colonialism present in former colonies following decolonization. It is commonly used as an operational concept for framing ideological domination in historical colonial experiences. All right, you can read the rest of it for yourself, but I'm gonna go back to, because this has a lot to do with what I originally was gonna, how people can, your own people can support these devils that do shit like this. And you're going to get into as this, but here's Patrice Emery Lumumba giving his birth date when he was assassinated. Was a Congolese politician and independence leader who served as the first prime minister of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, then known as the Republic of the Congo, from June until September 1960. A member of the Congolese national movement, he led the MNC from 1958 until his assassination in January of 1961. Ideologically an African nationalist and Pan-Africanist, he played a significant role in the transformation of Congo from a colony of Belgium into an independent republic. All right. You can read all that for yourself. All right. It says, shortly after Congolese independence in 1960, a mutiny broke out in the army, marking the beginning of the Congo crisis. I wonder how was that provoked? I wonder who was behind that. Lumumba appealed to the United States and the United Nations for help to suppress the Belgian-supported Katangan secessionists led by Moise Tshombe. All right. Both refused due to suspicions among the Western world that Lumumba ambiguously held pro-communist views. So here's the thing. We've exploited you, well, Belgium has, and the United States, hey, they have their hand in everything. So all these people wanted to do was be free, run their own country. What could be wrong with that? After all, don't these devils, that's what they claim that they did. But we know it's all bullshit. We're talking about a bunch of criminals. A nation of weirdos, and you're talking about the basis of the heathen. These are these Edomites, these so-called white people, whether they call themselves French, in this case Belgium, Dutch, English, Italian, Russian, they're all base or go down under Australian. They're, they're fucking animals. All these people, and it's a history of this same, it's a pattern here. Thing with Gaddafi 11 years ago. All he wanted to do, you see, he signed his own death warrant because, according to them anyway, because they wanted to run their own shit. They got tired of being exploited and having to kiss the ass of the people that hate them, i.e. America, EU, specifically, the European Union. All right, again, more Edomites, NATO, etc. It says, continuing on, it says, this led to growing differences with President Joseph Kasavubu and Chief of Staff Joseph Mobutu, that piece of shit, as well as with the United States and Belgium, who opposed the Soviet Union in the Cold War. Okay, so this man was, but again, he reached out to the devil. Uh, so it's kind of like, well, what do you expect? It says Lumumba was captured and imprisoned en route by state authorities under Mobutu. And, you know, the picture of him, let's get it real quick. This piece of shit. Yeah, him. Remember the rumble in the jungle? Yeah, there you go. That's who we're talking about. Okay, let's go back. So, it says after Mobutu's military coup, Lumumba attempted to escape to Stanleyville to join his supporters who had established a new anti-Mobutu rival state called the Free Republic of Congo. Psalms 83, all day, every day. This is why we keep bringing these scriptures out. And it tells you these countries, specifically these Edomites, they do not want us to become a nation. Now, it'd be interesting with this new revelation of all this gold found, was it Uganda? Oh, you know they're having these Edomites, that these so-called white people are having, you know, sleepless nights, you know, trying to set up shit so they can get in there somehow to get that resource, that gold. Anyway, continuing on, Lumumba was captured in prison, or I already read that. He was handed over to Katangan authorities and executed in the presence of Katangan and Belgian officials and officers. His body was thrown into a shallow grave, but later dug up and destroyed. How was it destroyed? We're going to get into that. Following his assassination, he was widely seen as a martyr for wider Pan-African movement. Now you see why they dug him up, and it's going to explain that. Over the years, inquiries have shed light on the events surrounding Lumumba's death, and in particular on the role played by Belgium. All right, so let's go back to the other article, the main one. All right, so they returned his gold tooth. That was supposedly the only thing remaining after they gave him an acid bath. All right. It says the restitution of the relic took place after After Belgium's King Philip earlier this month expressed his deepest regrets for his nation's abuses in its African former colony, Congo, which is 75 times the size of Belgium, unless they got filthy rich. All right. At least going back to the time of King Leopold. We were talking about the 1870s, I believe. All right, Leopold II, that is. So, don't you find it funny how they always talking about we deeply regret and language of that short, but yet they're not willing to restore. But when the shoe is on the other foot, they come out with all kinds of fines, and you have to pay this and that. These some wicked motherfuckers. That's why James 2:13 says there's no mercy for these motherfuckers. All right. It says, and you see who the people here: Belgium's King Philip, second from left. He's the only Edomite. Greets the children of Congo's former Prime Minister Patrice Lumumba. These children. All right, they give their names. All right. After his assassination in '61, Lumumba's body was dismembered. Remember, it said they dug him back up, right? They buried him in a shallow grave first, then they dug him up. He was dismembered and dissolved with acid in an apparent effort to keep any grave from becoming a pilgrimage site. That's what they were worried about. As a martyr, all right, people will be coming to see his grave. They didn't want that. Remember what J. Edgar Hoover was talking about when he made that quote about if there is another black Messiah, we're going to be the ones that get, along that line of thinking. Not that they looked at him as a Messiah. But it says the tooth was seized by Belgian officials decades later from the daughter of the Belgian police commissioner, who said he took it after overseeing the destruction of Lumumba's body. Man, for time's sake, I am going to just cut to, it goes on to say 2 years ago, the federal prosecutor's office said there is no absolute certainty that the tooth being returned. Well, okay, whatever. It says Lumumba remains for many in Congo a symbol of what the country could have become after its independence. Instead, it became mired in decades of dictatorship that drained its vast minerals riches. Like, whoa, can't you see? Of course. All right, they wanted you discombobulated, disoriented, not able to, because especially this devil here. So when dictator Mobutu Sese Seko seized power in a military coup later that year, Western powers did little to intervene as Lumumba was arrested in jail. Lumumba's assassination by separatists in January '61 ultimately cleared the way for Mobutu to rule the country, which he later renamed Zaire for decades until his death in 1997. Good for that bastard. All right. Even though Lumumba's killers were Congolese, questions have persisted. Oh, what difference does that make? Questions have persisted over how complicit Belgium and the United States may have been in his death because of his perceived communism. May have been. Well, that brings me to my next article. Let's go to everybody. What was the saying? Everybody loves. Well, guess who? Eisenhower signed Patrice Lumumba's death warrant. President Eisenhower personally gave the order to kill the progressive African leader. All right. Let's go into this one. Constantine report. All right. Eisenhower signed Patrice Lumumba's death warrant. All right. It says, new evidence has recently come to light that reinforces the view of a CIA role in the murder of Patrice Lumumba. The first prime minister of the Congo following its independence from Belgium in 1960, the United States didn't pull the trigger, but it did just about everything else, including giving the green light to the Congolese officials who had kidnapped Lumumba. CIA Station Chief Larry Devlin, we now know, was consulted by these officials about the transfer of Lumumba to his sworn enemies. Devlin signaled them that he had no objection to it. Lumumba's fate was sealed, just like they did in Vietnam, South Vietnam, with, what was his name, Diem. All of a sudden, he's assassinated. All right, and others. All right. It says it was a classic Cold War example of anti-communism carried to absurd and cruel lengths. Years later, Undersecretary of State C. Douglas Dillon told a Senate investigating committee that the National Security Council and President Eisenhower had believed in 1960 that Lumumba was a very difficult, if not impossible, person to deal with and was dangerous to the peace and safety of the world. How so? Because they wanted to be free? They might want to use their own resources to support themselves, kind of like what the CIA did in what they say is the first mission of the CIA when it became known as the CIA, when it changed over from the OSS, which was what? Iran, and setting up the Shah. All because Mossadegh wanted to nationalize his own resources and use it for, no, we can't have that. Can't you see these motherfuckers are evil and they got to go? All right. So how much? So you got to ask yourself, why? How come the majority of our people can't see this motherfucker for what he really is? They keep making these empty promises. We were never freed, first of all. A lot of our people don't understand that. Emancipation does not mean free, you dumbasses. In any case, President Eisenhower personally gave the order to kill the progressive African leader. All right. It says overthrowing the country's last great hope with disastrous consequences is an historical pattern found, what did I just say? found throughout the long chronicle of American imperialist interventions, what? From Iran and Guatemala in the 50s to Haiti and Afghanistan in the 90s, with many examples in between. Washington has been working on Hugo Chavez in Venezuela for a decade. They couldn't stand him because every time he got to the UN, he cussed them out. What did he say about George W. Bush when he left the podium when he was at the UN? He said, he said it smells sulfur or something to that effect. The other one in Iran, what was his name? Ahmadinejad or something like that. Oh, he really, man, he went into, but that's it on this. That's all, I'll just provide the resources here in the description box. This is so sad, but again, this is another one of those patterns. And here, this devil standing with the children. Man, we just gotta get the fuck up out here. That's all I can say. Hey, so with that, hey, shalom.